Hello everyone! The manufacturing execution system software that we're currently exploring is a very broad topic, so let's continue. We need to bring our MES project to completion. We still have some very important managerial functions left, as well as system-level functions. I'll try to go through all of them as quickly as possible. If you have questions about how any of this works on the programming level, we will definitely cover that in one of the final videos on this project. Just a quick reminder that you are welcome to download our MES software to your computer and follow along our video tutorials to learn the system better. The link in the description below. I log into my MES system as Bill, the administrator, and assign Suzanne a new function, production. Now I log in as Suzanne. And first, let's talk a bit about the philosophy behind this function. In every production process, there is one fundamental principle. The value of a product increases. How does this happen? It increases through the product becoming more complex. Technologically, it becomes more sophisticated and therefore more valuable. The production function represents exactly this process, the increase in value when different components are combined. It's similar to an assembly line where cars are built. Different parts and modules are added step by step until a finished vehicle is produced. In real life, this is obvious, but it also needs to be reflected in documentation and record keeping. Here, our operator takes components from different warehouses and forms a new, more complex product. Of course, this process should be automated. Once production workflows are established, each process will have its own engine that moves and transforms items independently of the operator. But for now, we will do everything manually to clearly understand how items are moved and how products are combined. So I go to the production list and select a warehouse. For example, warehouse. Here I choose the first item. I have enough quantity of this item. Let's say it's a gift. I press check, and the system automatically fills in the code ID. It tells me that multiple entries with this code ID exist in the database. So I select one of them and click Add. Now it appears in the code ID to join field. Next, I specify the quantity. For example, I want to take 1 unit. Then I go to another warehouse, for example, Fab 1, and select another item, let's say a kitchen set. I press check, then add, and again choose 1 unit. So now I'm combining, for example, a gift item and the kitchen set into a new product that I will later sell as a completely new item. After I fill in all the required information in the left panel, the system moves me to the next step. It opens the right panel and gives me the next set of options. And here I choose where I want to send my combined improved product. For example, I choose Fab 2, another warehouse. Now I select an item here, press check, and I have 2 options. Either modify an existing item or create a new item. In this case, I will create a new item because I've just combined 2 products and need to register it as a completely new product. I enter a code ID, for example, something new, and press check. The system tells me that this code is new, so I confirm creating a new entry. I set the quantity to 1 and name the product. For example, gift kitchen set. Kitchen set. The price will be higher, let's say $50. Then I can fill in additional fields such as who ordered it, for example, Suzanne for a client. I can change the PO here, but I can add a note, for example, special order. Then I click Join. That's it, a new product has been created. You can see it highlighted in blue. Next, let's say we want to modify an existing item. For that, I will click Clear, then go back to Warehouse. I select an item, for example, this one, and Edit. Then I do the same for a second item, selecting it from Fab 1, for example, this one, and this time I take 2 units of each. Now I want to move and combine all of this into Fab 2. I select the existing item, press check, and choose append existed code, append this entry anyway. Then I can add the quantity, for example, 2 units, and make any changes in the fields that are available. Finally, I click Join. That's it, the quantity of the existing item has been increased. So, let's summarize what I just did. I deducted 1 unit of an item from the warehouse and from FAB 1 and created a completely new product by combining those 2 items. This new product was added to the FAB 2 warehouse. This new item now has entirely different properties, characteristics, and purpose. In this way, I increased the value of the product. In other words, I created added value through this process. Let's move on to the next function, which is called Manage. To do this, I need to log in as Bill again in order to grant Suzanne this privilege. Now let's open Manage, and here we have the Manage options.
Documents, messages, inventory log, user log, inventory, and analytics.
We've already covered most of this, so I'll briefly go over what we can do here. For example, we can view a summary of any invoice. We can also open the detailed view of an invoice by its number and print it either in the browser with the option to save it as a PDF or export it to Excel. We discussed this in detail a couple of episodes ago. Similarly, we can access and work with purchase orders, quotations, sales receipts, packing slips, and other documents. Next, we move on to messages. In messages, we have internal communication, messages exchanged between employees. Under Message All, we can see all messages that have ever been sent in the system. For example, we can see messages sent by Bill along with the recipients. We can also print the entire message history as a messages report. Next is inventory log. Here we can track everything that has happened with inventory. What was added, what was moved to another warehouse, what changes occurred in inventory, what was created through production, and any newly added items. All of this can also be printed. For example, here we see items like flowers and gifts and gift kitchen set. The gift kitchen set is the item we just created. I can open it and see exactly when it was created, by whom, on what date, and how. In other words, a complete audit trail and full documentation for that new product. Next, we go to user log. This section records all user activity, who logged in, when, and what actions they performed. It shows the full activity history for each employee individually. And as you can see, Suzanne has been very active. There's quite a long list of actions recorded for her. Next, we go to inventory. Here we simply see all warehouses and their full contents. Everything stored in each warehouse. We can also print this information. Additionally, if an item has an associated image, we can include that image in the report. For example, if we open the warehouse and select an item that has a picture, we can print the inventory report with that item's image included. This is how the report will look. It contains complete data about the product along with its image when available. That's how this section works. Finally, the last feature in this section is analytics. The analytics function allows us to perform data analysis. We can filter or sort items by each column, selecting only the positions we're interested in. We also have a color-based system of 6 colors. For example, let's take red, blue, green, and one more color. Here, each color corresponds to a specific column. On the chart, the dots you see represent activity within those columns. Each color-coded set of points reflects the number of actions or interactions associated with the corresponding column. This allows us to analyze the data visually and identify patterns. For example, which products are the most popular. That's probably enough for today. It's impossible to cover everything at once. This is a very extensive topic. We'll continue exploring our MES system in the next episode, and next time we'll get even closer to understanding how to apply all of this using our knowledge to a real-world experience. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you for joining Laplanda Tech. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you learned something new today, give this video a like and subscribe to learn more from upcoming episodes.